Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the outset, I'd like to let you know that I will be sharing my time with my honourable colleague from Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak today on this budget and on the NDP amendment, because with so many times in this House, we see movement of closure and time allocation, and so haven't been able to speak on all the motions and bills before this House. I'm very grateful that I do have this opportunity today. Mr. Speaker, in an age of growing inequality, it seems that the Conservatives just want to help accelerate it. In Scarborough, my office hears about the needs for jobs, the needs for affordable and reliable transit, the need for fairer immigration policies, and among many, many others. Across Canada, communities are struggling to cope with major job losses. In Scarborough, we're a fast-growing community. In 2011, there were about 616,000 people living in Scarborough. But as an area, our average household income is below the provincial average, and so is the per capita income for people living in Scarborough. There are many people struggling to make ends meet in our community, and we also have many small and medium-sized businesses who are the real job creators. We've been waiting for a budget that meets our needs and priorities, but frankly, this is not the budget that we need, Mr. Speaker. Canada's economy isn't strong without a strong middle class, and Scarborough is home to many in the middle class. Mr. Speaker, from this budget, it is clear that the Conservatives either don't understand the realities of middle-class Canadians or just don't care. Instead of taking action to help Canadians get ahead, the Conservatives are stubbornly pushing their schemes that only help the richest 15% of Canadians. The Conservatives simply don't understand the priorities of Scarborough and the priorities of Toronto, Mr. Speaker. This region has lost hundreds of thousands of good manufacturing jobs, yet the Conservatives have offered the bare minimum of support for manufacturing and have failed to build a balanced economy. Toronto alone has lost 24,600 jobs in the last 6 months and nearly 100,000 manufacturing jobs since this Prime Minister took office. The Conservatives have failed to build a balanced economy that works for our city. Looking at the budget, Mr. Speaker, it is clear that this doesn't address our city's looming affordable housing crisis also. It fails to extend funding for social housing. The $150 million in the budget won't address the scope of the challenges facing our cities. Right now, there are 167,022 people on the City of Toronto's affordable housing wait list. Our city is committed to working on social housing, but it needs federal support to meet this glaring need. But something that we do see in this budget is this government's income splitting scheme that the former finance minister, Mr. Flaherty, strongly opposed. Financial experts have warned that 85% of Canadians will get nothing at all from the Conservatives' income splitting scheme, yet this is what this government puts forward. This wasteful and unfair policy will take billions from middle-class Canadians who need the help the most and hand it over to the richest 15%. This makes no sense at all, Mr. Speaker, when 1 in 2 Canadians lives paycheck to paycheck and countless others work full-time but still fall below the poverty line. For 10 long years of this government, we've seen billions dumped into tax giveaways to the largest corporations and tax loopholes for CEOs' salaries. With rising inflation rates and storm clouds looming for our economy, most of us don't benefit from this income-splitting scheme that's really there just for the wealthy few. Another is doubling the TFSA limit, nor does the tax loopholes for the CEOs. Doesn't benefit most Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Where are the measures in this budget that support the middle-class Canadians? We know that people are going to need strong supports if this storm materializes and our economy does face a further downturn. We could benefit from closing the tax loopholes to fund the recent commitment to eliminating child poverty. My motion to eliminate child poverty was supported almost unanimously in this House, but we don't really see any measures in this budget to actually work towards that goal. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, this budget continues the $700 million loophole for CEOs to avoid paying taxes on stock options, forcing ordinary Canadians to pay more. We could provide a helping hand for parents looking for childcare, reduce the retirement age back from 67 to 65 for Canadian seniors, and create a $15 minimum wage so people have more money in their pockets and supports they can rely on. Now, before I forget, Mr. Speaker, I must mention some of the victories, some of the measures that are actually good in this budget. I'm pleased to see that NDP proposals that this government voted down in this House already have now, of course, showed up in this budget. Which ones, you might ask, Mr. Speaker? Let me tell you. Like decreasing taxes on small businesses, increasing the time working Canadians dedicate to caring for their ill loved ones, stimulus for investment in manufacturing and extending basic workplace protections for interns. I'm also glad to see that the government act on the NDP proposal to extend the accelerated capital cost allowance for manufacturing investments in new equipment. It's really great that any of the positive measures in this budget are really all NDP proposals. Really demonstrating to Canadians that clearly we are ready to be government and should just write the entire budget next time around, Mr. Speaker. Small businesses have watched their tax rate drop 1%, 1 percentage point since the Conservatives took office to 11% from 12%, while watching the corporate tax rates drop 7 percentage points from 22 to now 15, which included a now defunct surtax over the same period. This budget proposes to drop the small business tax rate by 2% by 2019. This, Mr. Speaker, is exactly what the NDP had proposed, and this government voted against that, bringing the tax rate for small and medium-sized enterprises from 11% to 9%. Nevertheless, it's good to see the government adopt another one of the NDP's proposals. We also believe in extending basic workplace protections for interns, and I commend the government for supporting this NDP initiative also. Again, my mind wonders, Mr. Speaker, why this government just recently voted down the same measures in my New Democrat colleague's private member's bill. But it is what it is. The Conservatives have brought forward the NDP proposal for seniors for the Registered Retirement Income Funds, the RRIFs, and have reduced the amount that seniors must withdraw from their RRIFs so that they're not forced to deplete dangerous amounts of their savings. However, Mr. Speaker, they have broken their word to seniors on pensions, and this budget shows no sign of changing course. This government plans to raise the retirement age for old age security from 65 to 67, and they've blocked progress to boost the CPP and QPP benefits. Finally, the budget accepts the long-time NDP proposal on employment insurance compassionate care benefit to extend it from 6 weeks to 6 months. That will begin in January of 2016. Very happy to see another NDP initiative brought forward in this budget, Mr. Speaker. However, Mr. Speaker, I would be remiss if I didn't mention at this point that access to employment insurance has dropped to historic lows following cuts by this Conservative government, leaving many Canadians unemployed and unable to get the support that they need. Sadly, this budget does nothing to ameliorate that situation. Mr. Speaker, I also believe this budget is short-sighted at a time when Canada needs vision. What are we passing on or leaving behind to the future generations, Mr. Speaker? The Conservatives plan to double the tax-free savings account annual contribution limit to $10,000, another unfair scheme that only helps the rich. Most Canadians can only dream of those kinds of savings. Worse yet, this measure will cost Canadians $20 billion over the next 4 decades. This finance minister's response is that our grandchildren will deal with the problem is simply unacceptable. It is not responsible to burden our grandchildren with this $20 billion problem just because this government wants to create another venue for their wealthy friends to put away more money. I wish that this finance minister thought of the vast majority of people living in Toronto who just can't afford to part with $10,000 every year. According to one of the new reports from the Metcalf Foundation, authored by one of my constituents, John Stapleton, on the working poor, 63 of Toronto's census tracts show an increase in working poverty rates between 2006 and 2012, while only 14 show a decrease, Mr. Speaker. In 2012, they noted a major deepening in the incidence of working poverty in census tracts in the northern parts of Toronto. representing a constituency that is only North Scarborough, this is very concerning for me and the constituents I represent. I noticed you're giving me the wrap-up sign, and Mr. Speaker, I thought I had a lot more time to go through more issues like gridlock and more instances of poverty, but I hope somebody will follow up with that in the question and answers, and I really do look forward to continuing this debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments, questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Longueuil-Pierre Boucher.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'aimerais féliciter ma collègue de Scarborough-Rouge River pour son discours, qui est toujours encore une fois très en lien direct avec sa communauté, soulevant des enjeux très précis, parce que c'est précisément ce que nous déplorons dans ce budget, c'est-à-dire une déconnexion complète entre la réalité de la classe moyenne au Canada et les priorités de ce gouvernement. Alors, à ce sujet, j'aimerais demander à ma collègue si elle pouvait élaborer davantage sur ce sentiment qui nous anime de s'être fait voler, au bénéfice des Canadiens, il faut le reconnaître, s'être fait voler des idées de nos plateformes, parce que nous sommes prêts à à se retrouver au gouvernement. J'aimerais élaborer là-dessus sur ces points qui ont été vampirisés de notre plateforme pour se retrouver comme étant les seuls bons points qui nous apparaissent dans ce budget.
The honourable member for Scarborough-Rouge River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague for his question. And he's right. Any of the good initiatives that we see in this budget are strictly taken from NDP proposals that we've made public over the last many years, and we've been working on for many years. And it just really does goes to show that it adds to the proof that when you combine all budgets at the federal level, provincial and territorial levels, the NDP has balanced the budget more often than any other party. So this government now saying, these Conservatives now touting, promising balanced budget legislation, it really is just words coming out of their mouth, and they're, as usual, saying, please believe us. We're going to do better. Mr. Speaker, this country deserves better, and that's what we're doing. As the NDP, we're going to continue fighting for Canadians, and this presentation of this budget just goes to prove that the NDP is the only party that is standing up and fighting for middle-class Canadians, and we are ready to form government. We're ready to write this budget the next time around.